Drenda, and welcome to the program today. Have you ever felt imprisoned by your thoughts and emotions, or maybe held back by health limitations? If so, you're not alone. Over the past year and a half, 40% of Americans have reported symptoms of anxiety and depression. That's right, 40%. That number has grown 3 times higher in just a couple of years. And we've seen a 12% rise in worsening chronic conditions. Now more than ever, we need a healing revival. My daughter Amy recently spoke on how your identity and the picture of how you see yourself can give you the keys to unlocking your own supernatural healing. If you're in the middle of a spiritual battle, I believe this message is for you. Let's go there now.
Who are you? That's my question for you today. Who are you? I want to tell you a story. There was this guy in Ohio, actually, and he was arrested as a very young man, and he was put in jail for life. He was accused of murdering another person. And this was many, many years ago, before they had DNA evidence, any of that kind of stuff for forensics. And so fast forward 30 years, and he appeals his case when the DNA forensics start to come out. And sure enough, they do the DNA testing on the crime evidence, and they find that this man is actually innocent. It was a case of mistaken identity. Some of you have been held in prison by the enemy for way too long. Maybe it's been 30 years. Maybe it's been longer. Maybe it's been your whole life. And some of you have been asking God, you've been appealing to the courts of heaven, and you're saying, God, why am I still in prison? Why am I still broken? Why do I feel like I'm trapped inside this cage of darkness and I can't seem to get out? God is saying to each and every one of you today, look at the DNA evidence in my word, and you'll find exactly who you are. And turn that on the devil, who's tried to twist and change your identity, who's tried to take circumstances maybe surrounding you and accuse you of things that you are not, such as broken, worthless, abandoned, ashamed, alone. Those things that the devil tries to say about you, that you are a mistake, that you'll never amount to much. You can't do anything right. So what is wrong with you? Have you ever heard those thoughts? I know I did for so many years. And that spirit of shame accused me and accused me and accused me until I believed it about myself. But some of you need to take those arguments that the devil has tried to use, that mistaken identity, that case of mistaken identity, and you need to turn it back around on him. Because the Bible says that he's the accuser, he's the liar, he's the one who's worthless, he's the one who's trying to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus has come to give us life, and life to the fullest. So today we're going to look at the evidence, and we're going to answer that question, who are you? Who are you? Because before we can receive healing on the outside, maybe you are struggling with sickness in your body, but before you can ever receive healing on your body, on the outside, the physical side of things, we've got to look on the inside. We've got to look on the inside for healing on the inside. And healing works its way from the inside out. So in my life, I struggled with all sorts of infirmity. It was a spirit of infirmity that was attacking me. I didn't know it at the time. But often when you have illness that doctors can't diagnose, that moves around different areas of your body, that manifests in different ways, that's a spirit of infirmity. But I knew the door was back when I was younger, and that spirit of shame and rejection came in first. And then it invited other things to the party, like fear and infirmity. Spirits like to do that. They find a doorway, they find an entrance, and they invite other people to the party, okay? But you know what? We have authority over those things. With our DNA coming from Jesus, we have authority over those things. But I struggled with those thoughts for so many years. I felt so broken. I felt so worthless. I felt like, why can't I seem to get it together? What is wrong with me? The predominant thought with the spirit of shame is, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You're not good enough. You'll never be good enough. Those are the thoughts that we think about ourselves that cause us to reject the goodness of God. We actually cannot receive anything from God when we see ourselves as unworthy. It is literally a block. And God is trying to get good things to us, and he can't because we are rejecting good things in our lives. I know people who've tried, to reject all the good things in their lives because they didn't feel worthy. One of our friends, he tried to reject his marriage and try to walk out on his wife, not because of her, but because of him. He felt worthless. He felt ashamed. He felt like he wasn't good enough and didn't deserve anything good, and so people would just be better off without him. But thank God, God turned around their marriage, and they're healed and whole today. God healed me. He set me free from that spirit of rejection. He showed me the roots of that shame, and he uncovered the lies of the devil. Here's the thing. Whatever you keep in the darkness, God can't deliver you from. So I had to bring those things out into the light and lay it all on the table. When I came to God for healing physically, God first went there, and he said, no, let's back up for a second. Let's look at your identity. Let's look at the things that you believe about yourself that are wrong. And he started to unveil the ugliness that I had toward myself. I remember standing in front of a mirror and just saying how much I hated myself, how I felt so worthless, and I felt like I wish I would be anybody else but me. And God showed me, he literally stopped me in that moment and he said, you are rejecting me when you reject yourself. You are made in my image, baby. So anytime you're rejecting yourself, you are rejecting the image of God that's in you. And I think about my daughter. She's 9 years old now. She looks just like me. If you see her around, Journey looks just like me. She has the same personality. She has a lot of the same giftings. And it's so funny when I look at her, I totally get her. I totally understand her. I think I know her thoughts. It's so weird. I'll be like, okay, she's going through this and I know how to take care of that. It's so funny because she's my daughter. She's my flesh and blood. She's made in my image. But what would happen if I saw my daughter standing in front of a mirror and saying, I hate how I look, I hate how I am, I hate who I am? Well, that's a reflection back on me because she looks like me, she acts like me, she has my giftings and personality oftentimes. So when God sees you, he does not see your failures. He does not see your faults. He does not see the brokenness, the mistakes, the things that other people have judged you by. God doesn't see any of that. Do you know what he sees? He sees his baby. He sees his child. He sees his wonderful, precious, loved, forgiven, holy, righteous, redeemed, amazing, gifted, talented, unique child with his mark, his thumbprint, his looks, his image on the inside of you. That's what God sees about you. So what the devil tries to do is he tries to come in and bring these labels, right? Someone said to you in your younger years maybe, oh, you were a mistake. We never planned for you. You just kind of happened. I know some parents who've said that to their kids. And, that maybe they didn't even mean it as a hurtful thing, but it made you feel like, wow, they didn't want me. I'm unwanted. I'm unwanted. Maybe someone said to you how ugly you were and made fun of your looks, made fun of something about your features. And ever since then you thought, well, I'll never be pretty. I'll never be good looking. I guess I'll just try to be something else. I'll just try to be rich, or I'll try to, work hard, or be smart enough, or try to be good enough another way because I'll never look good enough. Maybe someone said to you that you were stupid. Oh, you're so stupid. You'll never amount to much. You can't do anything right. Why do you always screw everything up? Maybe, sometimes kids hear that from their dad because dads tend to be hard on themselves, and then sometimes that gets passed on to the kids. And so some of those words from dads, from fathers, can really mess with kids' minds. And maybe your dad said some things to you that really caused you to feel like, I'm not good enough. And I'll never be good enough. I always mess everything up. I always screw it all up. I can never get this right. You know, you're calling yourself by the wrong name. I was calling myself by the wrong names. I had accepted the labels that Satan tried to bring into my life, and I started calling myself by those names. Some of you are calling yourself by the wrong name. There are so many instances in the Bible where God changed someone's name. For instance, Simon Peter. His name was Simon. His real name was Simon. But when Jesus came on the scene, Jesus started calling him Peter because Peter meant the rock. And if you look at Simon's life, he wasn't exactly the rock often. He would fly off the handle. He would lose his temper. He'd want to call on fire from heaven. He would cut off the guy's ear in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? He did some things that were not good. He was a little up and down. But Jesus always called him the rock. Peter, you're the rock. You're the rock. You're steady. You're strong. You're stable. Jesus changed the name of Abram, who was an older guy who didn't have any kids and wanted kids. Him and his wife wanted kids. So God changed Abram's name to Abraham, which means father of many nations. Father of many nations. So every time Abraham was called by God, God was saying, you're a father. You're a father. You're a father. Some of you need to stop calling yourself by the wrong name this morning. Those are statements of ownership and identity. You're accepting things into your life that God never intended for you to have. Things that God never intended for you to be. So when you say things like, my depression, that's a statement of ownership. You're owning that depression and you're saying it's mine. My cancer. That's a statement of ownership. You are owning that thing and saying, okay, I accept it into my life. Okay? When you say things about yourself or think thoughts about yourself that are wrong, that drive you into the ground, that pull you back into that darkness that you've tried to get free from, those are statements of identity that you are speaking over your life. And God wants to challenge you today to ditch that identity crisis. It's time to ditch that identity crisis and start seeing yourself the way the Word talks about you and the way God sees you.